Hi everyone, I wanted to pop on and share with you some quick colouring tips. I got these new pens from Arteza. These are the Twimarkers, I believe is how you say it. You get 100 in a set, so there's a lot of them, and you get all the shades of the rainbow. So those are all the colours you get there. You can see it's an absolute crazy amount. Now I can't tell the difference between a lot of the colours because I'm not really that much of an artist. I just craft. So there's a lot of oranges. But I wanted to share with you why I asked Arteza to have these markers. Quite a lot of you will probably know that I used to be a Stampin Up Demonstrator for 8 years, and I left just over a year ago to just kind of do my own thing and not be so restrained by one company. They have a lot of very restrictive rules about what products you are and are not allowed to use and how you're not allowed to promote anyone else's company. Lots of very strict things, and I just wanted to use whatever I wanted to use, and it was getting very costly. I think their prices are too much. I don't think they're very comparative anymore. I love their ink pads. I love their cardstock. But that's a whole different story. Like, I don't need to rant about it. But anyways, Stampin' Up has these markers. And they are the markers that match their ink pad, that match their paper, that match their cardstock. They're brilliant. And you've got the fine end on that side. And then you've got the brush pen on this side. And I like these because every so often I want to colour in my stamp. And every so often I want multiple colours on my stamp. The downside with Stampin' Up marker pens is that obviously they match all of their products, which is good for them. But also you have to buy them in sets. You can't buy them individually. So it gets quite expensive. And if there's colours you don't want, you're kind of stuck with it. And they're quite costly pens. So I've got loads of them, but I'm finding I'm just not using them that often, and I'm using lots of other cardstocks now in different colours, and they're not matching. So I saw this pop up. This is a new item on their site, and I got before, I don't remember if you remember, but I got these before. These are the Arteza water brush, real brush pens. And I got them because that's what I thought I was going to do with that, was I was going to take these pens and I could colour in my stamps. Now the problem with these pens is that they are brush pens, like the description says, but I assume they would like the Stampin' Up pens, but they are brushes, they're like a paintbrush end. So when you go to apply pressure onto a stamp, it just kind of goes everywhere and then your colouring just doesn't work. So these are fantastic for doing watercolour backgrounds, for colouring in your stamps once you've stamped them onto your paper, but they weren't what I was looking for. So I asked Arteza, could I try these please? I'd like to see if they work for my idea. And they sent them, and I'm so pleased because they do work. Now these are water-based inks, again, in the pen, so they are watercolorable, so they're like the brush pens, but you've got, instead, you have the firm end, kind of like the Stampin' Up one, but smaller. Then you have a clear tube, and you have the fine tip end on the other end, which is quite good. And the nice thing about these pens is that they both have ends that you can stick on top of each other, so when you're using it, you can put your lid on, and you don't lose your lid, which is really good. But they are just like sort of my Stampin' Up markers in terms of what they do. But you get 100 markers in one set, so you will probably find a colour for whatever colour cardstock you're using if you want to kind of coordinate and match. There are also a really good selection of sort of your neutral colours. So you've got loads of browns, you got a bunch of greys, and you also have a white, which I have not tried the white out. I'm not sure if it's just like a blending pen. I think that's what it probably could be, is like a blending one. And I will share with you what I've been doing and playing with them. But I am so far really happy with them. The tip on the end is smaller than I'd hoped, but actually, I mean, you can colour in detailed things with them, which is quite good. But yeah, so they are water-based. You can watercolour with them. You can colour your stamps with them. You can make backgrounds with them, and they're blendable, so they all blend into each other, and I'll show you that in a bit. So these are the Arteza Twimarkers, and I'm really happy with them. And as a crafter and as a card maker and scrapbooker and stamper, I'm really happy. So let me share with you. So I have got a clear rubber stamp. That one there. Oh, this is the problem with Stampin' Up stamps. They've changed now to how they do it, but for the longest time, their silly clear stamps wouldn't stick to the blocks, and that always did my head in. Now they've changed it so much so that they stick so well to your blocks that you can rip your stamp apart when you pull it off. So I just think they have a long way to go to learn how to make a stamp better. But anyways, I do love their images on their stamps. This is another Stampin' Up wood stamp. This is an older set. So this one, let me show you where they came from. So I don't know what is current and what isn't anymore. It's been a while. So we have got, that one is from this set here, which I love. And so I've obviously used that butterfly one. Then the mushroom one, I have no idea what that one is called. It came from a little random box of stamps from a friend. Then this one is from the Butterfly Gala set, which is here. I'm not sure if this is still current. It comes with a matching punch. And then this is one of Alina's. So we have got clear mount rubber. We've got wood block rubber, red rubber. We've got photopolymer. And then we have got one of Alina's stamps, which is from this stamp set here. Sorry, I'm trying to not get the light. This comes with coordinating dies as well. And this stamp is a silicone stamp. So this one is made with some kind of silicone. So it's that you know, it's the kind that you get on AliExpress. It's one like the same kind of material that you would get when you get a free stamp set in a magazine. So this is kind of like the cheapest quality stamp you can get. This is the very expensive non-rubber kind of stamp material. And then these are the same. One you have to adhere to a block yourself, and one comes with a wood mount to stick it on. I wanted to show you the 4 kinds of stamps I'm aware of in the world and show you how they all work and how they react. This is Stampin' Up Cardstock, which I really love for stamping on. It stamps very clear. Another really good quality cardstock for stamping is Limetree Crafts cardstock. They have a premium cardstock which is excellent for stamping. It's a very soft paper. It absorbs ink really well. I will link Limetree down below, and I will link all the other stuff that I can down below. I won't link any of the Stampin' Up stuff because obviously you need a demonstrator to buy from there. If you'd like to have a demonstrator in the UK, then I can recommend a few to you. I do have friends that still do it. But I will link everything I can down below that I'm showing you and using in case you want to go and find it yourself. So this is Stampin' Up Cardstock. We have got 4 different kinds of stamp here. And then I went and Googled what a rainbow is because I can never remember the rainbow order. And then I pulled out 1 pen from each kind of part of that rainbow. So I'm going to take you through colouring in the stamps and kind of how I do it. And then you'll see what the result. Now the result is not going to be as clear as if you stick it in an ink pad and stamp it down. You won't get the same kind of effect. It will be slightly lighter, but it allows you to colour and it allows you to get multiple colours on an image. So I'm going to start with Alina's stamp. This is the photopolymer stamp. I've also got a grey because I wanted to do the outside in a grey. I'm going to zoom in a bit so you can see. And I hope this is fun and educational. I hope this isn't boring to you. But I'm going to colour in these. So I'm going to stick the lid on the other end, which works well. I'll give you a quick little show. So with the brush pen, it obviously is so kind of does that. It doesn't squish down. You can do a thinner line if you use the tip. You can do a thicker line if you use the side. And then the other end is very fine. So you can hardly see that. That's a really fine line. So they're really quite nice and versatile. Now I'm just going to colour in. I'm going to start with my outside edge. It doesn't matter what you do. When I colour in a stamp, I kind of like to angle my brush on its side so that I'm getting sort of the side of the brush and not the tip. So I'm not going to ruin the tip. Now there's a bit of colour on here because I haven't cleaned this one from when I was playing with it a minute ago. But basically I'm just going to run over it with my pen. And you will notice it will start to dry, and that's okay. I'm going to share with you how you can re-moisten it without damaging it, and then how you use it to stamp. And these are all tricks and tips I learned from Stampin' Up demonstrators when I was doing Stampin' Up, so they're not my ideas. It is all stuff that I learned when I was a demonstrator. But these pens work the same way, which is really exciting because I love that you get so many colors in it. Now, oh, so the rainbow order, the whole rainbow thing is because I'm going to do the butterflies in the rainbow order for you, and I wanted to tell you that I needed to look it up because I'm not so good. So basically, if you find that you've kind of gone over and you've done a bit of an oopsie and you get a bit of ink there, you can just rub it off on your paper. Because it will absorb the color, it will pick it up onto your pen, and then you just kind of rub it off and then go over it again, and then you get your color. Now I've got a bit of fluff on the ends of these pens because I decided to try the Jennifer Maguire tip of sort of preparing your stamp by rubbing it with a dry cloth. Now I used a dry muslin because that's what I have in here for wiping up my stuff, and I think a microfiber cloth like she uses would have been better because it left loads of little fibers all over my other stamp, and then when I was playing around and using these pens, the pens picked up those little fluffy bits. So if you see me wipe off a little bit of fluff, it's not the pen and the quality of the pen, it is the fact that I used this silly muslin and was trying to prep my stamps. So now I'm just going to put some color on these little dotties. I think that's everything, isn't it? So what you need to do now is you've colored your image. You can see there's some ink and some color on there. You can mainly see it on the red and the green. And all you have to do is breathe on it. So you're just going to breathe heavily. And I always feel awkward, especially if I do this in front of other people. But when you breathe your warm air of your breath onto the stamp, it re-moistens the whole thing. And then you can stamp it down. So I'm not showing you me breathing on this, by the way. You do not get that pleasure. And then you just stamp and press it down. And I like to hold it for a couple seconds. Let's get you in view. And then you've got your image. So as I said, you're not going to get crystal clear. And it depends how well you've put that pen down. But you will get multiple colors on one stamp. So that's quite fun. Now I'm going to show you on this one sort of a rainbow technique. So kind of coloring your stamp so that you can get a rainbow. Now this is clean. Photopolymer absorbs color from your stamps, so you will get staining if you have a photopolymer stamp. And because these blend, you can kind of touch that color and go into your next one. We didn't want to touch it on this one because we didn't want the red going into the green because it would look silly. But when you're doing sort of this rainbow effect like this on a photopolymer, you can touch that color a bit because it will drag the color into the next one and kind of give you that blending, merging effect. And forgive me if I use the wrong kind of words when I'm describing this stuff to you. I'm not so good with the words. Now, just be mindful to always get your edge line as well. It's quite easy to forget about that edge when you're coloring in the stamp. But if you don't color that edge around the image, you will not get the edge of your image. It'll end up looking a bit funny. So I'm just going to go for some blue on the ends. Oh, I think I forgot the green. Whoops, I'll put the green down below. See, I messed up my order because I was coloring in that last stamp. Whoops. I'll go down with some green down here. I'm sorry if you can hear me breathing. I'm trying to concentrate. I'm not very good with the multitasking. You should see me in a car. I'll end up doing, you know, like 20 miles under the speed limit if I'm really into a conversation. So I like using my cruise control because I just kind of forget what I'm doing. I'm not so good at chatting. Okay, so there's our image all colored in. You can see that kind of rainbow effect. I'm going to breathe on it and stamp it down. I feel like I'm getting really intimate with you guys. So that one worked really nicely. So you can see the difference between a photopolymer stamp and a silicone stamp. So you get quite a bit clearer of an image. But how fun is that rainbow effect? And that was just colouring it in. Now there are other techniques you can do to get a similar effect, like the baby wipe technique where you use re-inkers and you kind of blob some ink onto the baby wipe and create your own stamp pad. But you won't get this intricate blend of colours so detailed without using something like markers. Now I'm going to take this stamp. Sorry, I've got to make sure I've zoomed in so much that I need to make sure I am covering that properly. So I'm going to use, oh, I messed up the order again. Green there, I think. I'm going to use that kind of section of the, there we go, those ones. And all I'm going to do, I don't want to faff with coloring in details, I'm just going to color in each image as is. So when you're doing this kind of technique, make sure you have really good cardstock. Cardstock makes all the difference when you're stamping. You will get a much clearer, crisper, colorful, bright image if you have a really good cardstock. And like I said, the ones that I use are Stampin' Up and Limetree Crafts in the UK. I find their cardstock really good. I know a lot of people use Nina Solar White, I believe it is. We don't really get that here. I've not found it for anywhere other than like for a really, really expensive price. So it's not a common cardstock here for us in the UK. So I don't use that. But I do love Stampin' Up and Limetree Craft. So here we are. I'm just using the side of my pen again, not the tip, and just coloring them all in. And you can hear that kind of squeaky sound with this one. Like that. And get that kind of squeaky noise. Breathe on it to reactivate it. Press firmly up and down. Never rock your stamps. This is something I always taught people when I did card classes. I always said when you stamp, you want to stamp straight up and down and apply firm pressure. If you're going to want to rock, just rock ever so gently like that. Never fully rock your stamp. Otherwise, when you do that, you're going to rock the image and you're going to blur the image. So be very careful when you're stamping. It's always dab, dab, dab on your ink pad. Stamp straight up and down, firm pressure. So that's quite good. Quite happy with that. It's quite a cute image. And then we're going to do the butterfly. So I'm going to go from purple and reverse my colors. So I'm going to start in the middle. So I do find coloring this on red rubbered stamps gives like the nicest effect in terms of stamping. I really like that the most. I find it's easier to see as well when you're coloring. Again, I'm going over the purple just a bit to kind of blend it out. Sorry, I want to make sure I'm on the camera. Make sure I'm recording as well. There's been a couple times where I've been recording and then realized I didn't actually press record, or I thought I pressed start again after I'd nipped to the loo or something and then found no I didn't. Right, so now we're going to do some green, then I'm going to blend it into that blue a little bit. Okay, so my colouring skills aren't so good. I've got a lot more yellow on that side than I do on that side, but we're going to stamp it down and see how we go. I'm breathing a lot more on this one because it's quite big. So firm pressure, straight up and down, little tiny jiggle. And there we go. We've got a beautiful butterfly, rainbow, uneven butterfly. So that is how you can use these markers to colour, which is really fun. And there are so many colours in there that you can, find everything that you need. I really like that one the most probably. So the photopolymer just seemed to stamp the best in this instance. But they all work really well. So this technique is quite good and quite fun that you can use these markers for. Now I want to just share with you the blending ability of them. So if I get my rainbow order back, then I can share with you. So this is watercolor paper from Arteza. I'll zoom out a little bit. This paper is this watercolor paper here. So it's 32 sheets, premium watercolor paper. You get 2 pads in each. And this is the 9 by 12. So it's really good. This is my preferred watercolor paper to use at the moment. I don't have a lot of watercolor experience. I've used Stampin' Up watercolor cardstock, but you get something like 4 sheets for like £10. It's like so crazy expensive. So I really am happy with this watercolor paper from Arteza. But I'm just gonna try out blending with it. So I'm gonna put down some red. So apparently you can blend them and you can watercolor them. So we're gonna try that. So I'm gonna start with the orange. Oh, that blends really nicely and really smoothly. fuzz on there. Oh, look how well this blends out. Look at that. That is blending so beautifully. I'm not very good at this whole crafty creativeness in terms of art stuff. Like, that's all that fluff coming off that silly thing. But I do enjoy playing with colors and playing with stuff like this. I really do. Oh, this silly... Oh, I'm never going to do that trick again with that rig. Oh, look at that. Like, you can, like, blend that line right out. That is so amazing. Even the dark colors blend so nicely. Okay, I have no idea if I've done that kind of blending technique right, but that's stunning. Like, they blend really well together. Okay, so that blending bit works. Let's get my watercolor brush. Okay, so I've got these Arteza watercolor brushes. They come in a big set, so you can get all, they come with like a massive variety of sort of widths and lengths and stuff. So you get kind of some of everything in it. And the fun thing about these ones is they've got this little push button, so you can squeeze it when you want a bit more water to come out. So yeah, I've got these and I've been fairly impressed with them. The lid again, I think, can stick on the end, which is quite handy for not losing it. Right, let's try this out. I'll get my annoying muslin. So I've got this, which I use for crafting, and let's just, I don't really know what I'm doing here. We'll see how they blend out going that direction, I guess. So these are like pretty much almost fully dried, and they're still blending really nicely, which is lovely. Look at the color. I'm getting the turquoise in there as well. I'm sure I'm not doing this right at all, but I just wanted to kind of share with you whether they do actually watercolor, because this could be like the ideal brush set to have, because it kind of seems to do everything. You can color your stamps, you can watercolor with it, you can blend with them. This is all that fluff from this silly thing. So I'm really impressed with it. I really like these markers a lot. That's really cool. I'm really happy with that. So this has kind of been like a bit of a review on these markers, because I thought I would have a play with you and see what they're like. I'm really happy with them. I like having things like this where I can take them on holiday with me, so when I go away I don't have to worry about taking 100 ink pads. I can just take this one pack of markers, and I've got my ink pads, I've got my markers, I've got my blendables, I've got my watercolor. Like, it's just one thing to take with me, which would be really nice. Okay, so that's how well they blend and how well they watercolor. So that's quite cool. So thank you so much for joining me today. Oh, I kind of want to just, this isn't watercolor paper, but I kind of want to just see if I can, I don't think I'm going to be able to blend those out because it's not watercolor paper. Okay, so don't use non-watercolor paper to try and watercolor with. It doesn't work. Okay, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had fun. All the links to all the things that I've shown you, apart from the Stampin' Up stuff, should be in the link, the drop box below. And have a great day. If you've got any more ideas or suggestions of things I can do with these markers, let me know. If you want me to try something with them, let me know as well. I'm happy to test and try out for you and see how they go. Right, thank you so much. Bye!